All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Mindful SRNA. I am so excited for today's episode, and it's actually going to be perfect because we have been talking all about getting into CRNA school. And so I'm going to start transitioning the episodes into what happens when you're in CRNA school? How can we thrive while we're in CRNA school? So there is nobody better to do this transition with than Victoria Leigh Adamson CRNA. We have a really powerful episode coming up for you. And no matter if you are just starting out, if you're in school, if you're finishing up, like she's got so many gems to share about the whole process. So no matter where you're at in your CRNA journey, you will take something away from this. So Victoria and I met actually. We hadn't really conversed a lot in the DMs, which was interesting because a lot of people will hit me up in the DMs, get to know me. But I launched my SRNA coaching program. Believe it was 2021. I want to say now. It's been like 3 years almost. It was a brand new program. I literally just launched it and Victoria joined. Like she just joined and she stuck with the program, stuck with me, did everything until now she's graduated and working. And we have a little special announcement that we're going to make in a little bit. But I am just so excited to have her share her journey. And I've really been able to watch her, throughout her school journey. And she trusted me at the process. So I just appreciate you so much for being here and welcome to the Mindful SRNA podcast. And, we're going to start off. I know my listeners love to hear how people got to CRNA school. And I want to remind y'all, we do not use other people's journeys against ourselves. We use them to motivate, inspire, and just for y'all to see that there are so many diverse ways to get into CRNA school. So Victoria, why don't you go ahead and tell us, how did you get into CRNA school? What did that journey look like for you?
Let's see. So for me, CRNA school was something that came about when I was in nursing school, or I found out about CRNAs when I was in nursing school. So I kind of had it in the back of my mind that was a potential career that I wanted to pursue. So I was kind of already in that mindset of like, what do I need to do to get to that point? So I graduated nursing school with I think 3.6 GPA. And then in order to apply to CRNA school at the time, which I know things have changed, they highly recommended the CCRN and they required the GRE. So in my years of working in between nursing school and CRNA school, I did both of those things. My GRE score, I think, was a 300, exactly what they wanted. So I just left it. And I honestly used... to study for that, I used the the GRE for Dummies, like that, those theme of books. And I used that to study for that. I took the CCRN a couple times. And then as far as like work experience went, when I knew that I wanted to pursue CRNA, ICU experience was requirement, right? So I started directly into the ICU. When I was in my last semester of nursing school, I was working as a tech on an orthopedic floor. So I was already in a hospital system, and that hospital system was really adamant about keeping their employees where they were at. So they basically asked and said, okay, well, we can't get you into the CV-ICU because they don't take new grads, but what other ICU would you want, or what other department would you want to go to? And I said, I'm really just looking for ICU experience. So I got into a med surg ICU, and that was great experience. I got to see a lot of different scenarios there. And that was kind of like my work experience. I did a little bit of travel nursing as like an ICU travel nurse. And I came back. I applied to CRNA school the first time, and I only applied to one school. For me, CRNA school, I knew that I needed family support and friend support around me, and I didn't want to have to uproot my life and go somewhere else without that support. So I wanted to stay close to home. So I only applied to one program, and I told myself if I didn't get in after the second application, then I would look elsewhere as well. But it was really important for me to stay close to home. So I applied to the program. I didn't get in for my first application, but my feedback I got from that application was kind of basically about like my knowledge foundation that I had. A lot of the ICU experience that I had was not me making personal decisions and not me being independent in my thinking, because a physician was always telling me how to address an ABG, how to, call respiratory to change the placement of the tube and those kinds of things. Whereas when I then transitioned into CV-ICU, it was a lot more autonomous in thinking. You had protocols set before you, but you got to make the decisions. And so I really found a lot of growth in that transition to a different unit where I was able to be autonomous. So um, in the CV-ICU, I tried to do everything I could. I was an ECMO specialist. I shadowed CRNAs. I worked with balloon pumps. I kind of tried to do every device and everything I possibly could. So that was kind of the work experience and like licensure I had to get before I got into school. My second application I felt a lot different with. My interview was a lot different. Um, the questions were a little bit harder, but I also like had the foundation from my experience to like answer those questions appropriately this time. Whereas this before it was like, yeah, I don't really know that answer. And they want you to be honest, right? They don't want you to lie and make up an answer just to make up an answer. They would rather you be honest about it. But I felt a lot more confident in my answers going forward in that interview for sure.
Awesome. I love that. And I just want to touch on too is like, how did you overcome that initial rejection? Because I know that's where a lot of
Ooh.
people get tripped up.
I'm gonna be honest, I was so confident I was getting into school that first time too. I was very confident that like my interview was just like anybody else's. It's fine. Um, I found out I didn't get in when I was on ooh, this is funny. I was on a girls trip with my sister. We try to do a girls trip every year. And we were driving to Charleston, South Carolina. And I found out that I didn't get into school on that road trip. And I gave myself, it was like the last 30 minutes of our drive. And I gave myself the last 30 minutes. I said, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to pout. I'm going to be upset about it. And then we're going to enjoy this trip and we're going to have the best time. And we had the best trip. It was incredible. We loved it. And I just told myself that I would deal with it when I got home, basically. And the biggest thing for me was calling them back, like after I got the email, calling them back that next week and asking them for the feedback, because I knew that I had the CCRN, I had the GRE, I had the GPA, like I had all of the things. There was something specific that they were looking for that I was missing. And I just wanted to see if it was something that there was something that I could change about it. And it was really my experience level in an ICU setting. So I think really trying to figure out what it is they're looking for and like how else you can grow as a student, as a provider, as a nurse. I think that's super important. The program I went to also had like an advanced principles class, they called it. And it was basically like, it was like anatomy and physiology, but without the anesthesia component, because I ended up taking the same class when I was in the program with the anesthesia component. But that really helped also show them that I was willing to put in the effort. I was willing to pay the money. I was willing to be there and be a part of this course that could potentially help me as well. So I think just showing that effort that like you really want this is like a big thing for them to see.
Yeah, I love that. And I love all of that. I just want to say, first of all, I love that you were like, I'm going to pout, like, because we have to feel our feelings. So I like that you were like, I'm going to pout, but then I'm going to enjoy
Mhm.
my trip and then I will deal with this. And really getting feedback is always, it's very hard to do, but like I always say, everything that you do before CRNA school is going to prep you for what's waiting. Because if you can't handle feedback now, it's going to be harder to
Yeah.
handle a bunch of feedback in CRNA school. And honestly, that's what leaders do, right? Leaders take feedback, leaders take criticism, and then you get to decide what to do with it. So I love the fact that you just, and once again, guys, we are not saying you have to go to a CV-ICU. Okay. You do
Nope.
not have to be in a CV-ICU to get into school. However, you do need to be in units where you can really critically think at the highest level, where you can have some autonomy, where you can work as a team. And every hospital, every place, everything is not created equal or a little bit different, but I do challenge each of you to be somewhere that is really going to challenge you. If you're uncomfortable in the unit, that's a good thing, because the more you can learn and grow and put in that effort, which is what they want to see. They didn't want Victoria to be perfect in her interview. They just needed to see that she could handle, the CRNA school. And they just didn't think she was ready. And so she took that harsh feedback and she made herself ready. So I just want to point that out. It's like, it's okay, but you don't have to have CV-ICU experience, but you do need to work somewhere where you really are taking high acuity patients. You have to have that experience somewhere. Like it has to come from somewhere. You know what I mean? Whether you I know some people take breaks and, I want to go to PACU for a little bit or do that. That's fine. But you have to have some rock solid critical ICU experience in there. So I love that.
Somewhere to ask questions too. Like you have to be able to, even if like your docs aren't letting you maybe make those decisions. So like say you bring them an ABG and they're like, great, I want you to change this on the ventilator and I want you to do this. Being able to ask questions about why, not just implementing that and saying, okay, great, I'll go do those things. It's about why are we doing those things and what is that changing and how is that going to help the patient in the long run, not just these quick fixes sometimes. I think that's hugely important in whatever ICU you're in or setting you're in, of asking why for a lot of things.
I love that. That's perfect. So fast forward, you got a rejection. You came back, you got into CRNA school, you rocked it, which is amazing. And I also like too that you were like, I had all the things, what was missing, right? I love that. And it was that leadership component. Okay. All right. I'll get off that. But I love it. So when you started CRNA school initially, what was it like for you when you started? Was it what you expected? Was it not? Like, take me back to like those first few months of starting CRNA school.
So our first semester was online. So I actually quit my job at the end, like New Year's Eve, I think was my last shift of 2020. And so we started our online semester in January. We had to go to campus a couple times, but that was it. And that was like such a a fake semester in my opinion. And they've actually taken it away now. I don't think they have an online semester anymore at all, because it wasn't realistic of what CRNA school was going to be about. And it was just time for everyone else to kind of keep working, really, is what people did with it. They kept working while they were in this program for the first semester. And for me, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm studying during the week. I get to go hang out on the weekends. It was fine. I had just started a relationship. I just quit the job. I was hosting a podcast with one of my friends. I mean, I was like on this high almost. Like things were great for CRNA school starting. And then fast forward to second semester, we got onto campus and things just got busy real quick. It was really fast paced. We were on campus all the time, whether it was for class or for sim lab. At the end of second semester is when we had our white coat ceremony and we started clinical third semester. So it was very quick where we transitioned into full steam ahead, going 24/7. I felt like there wasn't any downtime. I think I see a lot of CRNAs on social media these days that post or like will do question boxes and people will ask, what should I do before I start CRNA school? And a lot of them, which I think is fantastic advice, is like, give yourself a break before you start, because you really have no idea how intense it's going to be before you get into it. And I wish that I did take a break for that first semester when I was not working. I'm really glad I didn't work through that first semester and I was just doing online and I was just having fun on weekends, and that was my life. But once it got busy and there was no turning back. It wasn't like, oh, I just need to take a week vacation. Like that's not how CRNA school worked. You booked 2 weeks of vacation like a year in advance, and that was your vacation. That was it. Yeah. So in the beginning, I was like up at 4:30. I was going to the gym. I was, on campus by 7. I was studying before class. I felt great. Third semester hit. We were in sim lab, class, and clinical, and I was pretty much drowning immediately.
Drowning immediately.
So I ended the podcast with my friend. She was having a baby, and I was now knees deep or head deep into CRNA school, really. I ended the relationship, so that was over. I my workout routine kind of fell to the wayside. Like everything changed in a heartbeat, and there was no other option. Um, and I'm really thankful. Like, I know we'll kind of get into this later, but I was really thankful to have the mentor program, because in the beginning it felt like, oh, this is just nice and supportive and this is a great way to continue. And then when things got bad, things were bad. And I didn't know what I was doing or how to control myself or my emotions or my headspace or anything like that. And so that was just such a godsend when, my cat passed away, and then I had a failed exam, and like all these things happened, and I was like, what did I get myself into?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
So, just the beginning of CRNA school was just so different than what it was actually going to be like.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like hearing you. Like, I hope some of you guys can just take a deep breath right now, because I think she just kind of named what a lot of people feel, but we don't talk about all the time, is just literally all of a sudden things change, and they change quickly when you're like, oh my God, clinical. Oh my God, I have still these classes. Oh my God, I have sim lab. And now we have C stuff. And then and it comes on very quickly. And it's kind of funny. You mentioned that when you just said, what do we do before school? And actually, my next podcast is going to be how to get organized, how to prep yourself before CRNA school. And I love what you said, because in a nutshell, that's like my answer: breathe.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because I think that you have to get to a place where you're emotionally and mentally strong, so that you
Mm-hmm.
can be emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence doesn't just happen. It's like a skill. But I want also to say that, y'all, I mean, I spun out in CRNA school and before, but I also just want to give life and say that, like, life happened. It didn't stop, like with her cat and with all the responsibilities she had, and, health issues and stuff like that. Like, it happens, and it's okay to feel overwhelmed, and you're going to feel overwhelmed. But how do we deal with that? And how do we, like, my whole business is, how do we just get out of this constant survival mode and actually find ways to thrive throughout the process? Maybe not every day, but like the majority of the days, it would be nice if we had kind of those tools. So I love that you said that. Now, I just want to go a little bit further real quick. So when you say that you were just kind of like everything was happening at once, you thought that it was all just going to fall apart. What were you really thinking? Like, what were the thoughts that were going through your head? What was your kind of your emotional space like? Like, what did that really feel like when you were just in the middle of CRNA school?
Mm-hmm. First, I asked myself, what did I get myself into? What did I sign up for? um, the hard part about it is that the CRNAs that you shadow don't talk about the stress and the struggles that they went through for school. When I talked to CRNAs, we talked about the career and the flexibility with having a family and the pay and the hours and the acuity of patients that you got to see. I mean, those are the things we talked about. We didn't talk about how difficult school was. So I was like, no one told me about this. I was not prepared. Um, so that was kind of my initial reaction. After that settled, I feel like it was just a lot of imposter syndrome of, am I going to be able to do this, or am I worthy of doing this? And am I going to be able to make it? Um, every school and every program and everything has an attrition rate of some kind, saying who, doesn't make it in the program. And that was just such a fear of mine of like, am I really going to be able to do this? And am I going to be able to make it through? And I've always been like an average student. I would say in nursing school, I was A's and B's. And so getting to CRNA school, and like, it was so much harder just for me personally. I was mostly getting B's, and our program had a deal where if you got one C or second C, you would get kicked out of the program. And that was that. And I was like absolutely terrified of that. I was like, I'm going to fail out of this program. I'm just an average student. I have other people in the program that are finishing their exams very quickly. And like, people are like, oh yeah, I totally nailed that exam. And like, I'm like, I did not. So I just felt like, am I worthy enough to actually be here? Because like in your interview, and you're presenting yourself as this this person that's already gone through nursing school and you've taken the GRE and taken the CCRN, you've done all these things, like they're not giving you an exam to like give you a practice test to see how you test. They're not giving like all of the information you're coming with is showing them that you're an average student or you're a good student and you're worthy enough to be here, but like they don't know exactly how you're going to be able to handle CRNA school or not. So I just felt like, were they wrong to accept me, and can I really do this? And the short story of that is yes, you can, but it takes a lot of a lot of work to get to that point.
Yeah, it does. And that's why, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate and I love my program, because not everybody needs it and not everybody is going to join. But it's there if you need it. I want it to be there for the people that do need it, because it's challenging. It's 100% doable. And that's why, like I said, and then I love this segue into my next episode, because I'm going to be bringing up so much stuff. And I love that you're saying it. It's coming from you who just completed the process. But comparison is a thief of joy, but it's real. The imposter syndrome is real. And, like I said, the more kind of mentally strong we can be, the more we can be rooted into our worth and into our capabilities and into the possibility of what can happen, the better school can be in the midst of the challenges. So with that being said, what was it? What made you join my program? Because like I said, we didn't really have a relationship before then. Like I was like,
I'm just silently stalking people on Instagram. I don't really talk to them. I'm like just watching what's happening, and I'm like, do I want to be a part of this or not?
That's it. That's the name of the game, though. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. But yeah, I'm just curious, because I don't think I've ever asked you this. I'm curious what it was that made you say, I'm going to join her program, because you really went all in and did the work. I mean, you used your resources, you did your sessions with me. I mean, you had notebooks. I mean, you really like dug in. So I'm just like, so what made you want to kind of join in, or what struggle was it that you were like, that's it. I need help.
I'm done. I wish I had my journals. I have them somewhere. I have a planner system that I use basically, and the planner system had like notes at the end of each month, and each month, or I would do probably 2 of the mindset modules a month, or maybe once a week, depending on how busy I was. But really, it was in my calendar, so I saw it all the time. It was always in my planner. I was always looking at it, which was great. But honestly, this is going to sound so silly. I'm such a sucker for a program. Like I'm such a sucker for a system where it's got worksheets and it's got modules and it's got a plan already in place, where like I don't have to think about it. I just have to do it, and I have to put the effort in to make it happen, but I don't need to like plan out how I need to fix things. And that was the biggest thing I think I saw when I was like, oh, there's a program of somebody that's already done CRNA school. They already have, the tips and tricks and like little things to help you get by. And I was like, I love a good support system. Like that would be phenomenal. And I knew my program had like a singular class, I want to say, maybe 2 classes on like EQ and being emotionally intelligent. But like we never, after first semester, second semester, we never explored that again. That was never brought up back again. And I felt like emotional intelligence doesn't stop after second semester. Like that's when it gets harder. That's when we need it the most, is like third, fourth, fifth semester, when we're drowning and we don't want to keep doing this. So I don't know. I saw that there was a program available and that you were starting it, and I was like, this sounds like a great idea. Let's try it out. Let's see what happens. And then I just got totally roped in, and I was like, I love doing these modules. I was like, I love doing this little homework assignment, and it's something to keep my mind like out of school, but still thinking about anesthesia. Like I'm still thinking about school in my mindset, but it wasn't like me having to do physical like anesthesia work, if that makes sense. So I really didn't know how helpful it was going to be until I even got in it. And then once I was in it, I was just like, this is super invaluable. I have to stay. So that
Awesome.
was kind of
I
it.
love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It's been so awesome. She's actually spoken to the group now. Like she's been a guest speaker and have spoken. It's been really, really exciting to kind of see. We'll get into that transition in a second. But yeah, I try to make it like it's not like it's extra work per se, or it's going to take like, oh, you have to spend an hour. You can literally, a lot of people just listen to the podcast on the way to clinical, or if you like worksheets, I have them in it. Like basically, however it is you like to get, whether you're visual, whether you're auditory, whether you like to touch things, you can utilize the what's in there however works for you. And I always say 5 minutes a day, 30 minutes a week, if even that is kind of all you need to make really tiny, simple shifts in your mindset. And I always tell them, I said, y'all, I said, I am doing this work right alongside with you, be it with my family, my husband, my in-laws, my job, my career, being a mother. Like I think the number one thing I hear people say, it not only helped me in school, but it helped me in life. And I just want everyone to know, like, I'm doing all the work too with you guys with all this stuff. You know what I mean? Because it really does translate into more things than just school, which I think is great and super powerful. So let's switch gears for a second here. Victoria and I did an awesome webinar. She joined me with it. We're going to talk about this program we have that's going to be amazing. But tell me about your experience with the C exam. I know.
The joyous C exam.
PTSD is real.
PTSD is real. It's not so bad looking back on it now. It was such an experience. And I think that while it was a struggle while I was in it, it allows me now to be able to like speak on it and to like help other people with it. So, my first attempt was, in the spring, I want to say, of 2023, I think it was. It was my last year of school. And I wasn't super worried about it because it was our first attempt and we had to take it twice regardless. So no matter what, you were going to have to take it 2 times. One was going to be in the spring, one was going to be in the fall. In your second attempt, you had to get a 440 or higher. That was the plan. And my first attempt, I got a 371. I didn't really study for it. And I was like, psh, that's not that far away from a 440. It'll be fine by the time I take it in the fall. No worries. Lies. I took my second one and I got a 396. So again, I was like, okay, not that far away from 440. I can still do this. It's fine. Until I got to my third attempt and I got the same exact score. I got a 396 again. And that's when I kind of spiraled a little bit, because now I was paying for the exam. The first 2 were paid for by our program, which I'm sure we ended up paying for from our tuition, but like I wasn't like having to pocket out money. And so I took the third one and got the same score. I cried about it. I'm sure you and I had a mentor call at some point about it.
We met a lot. Yes.
We had a few.
We met a lot at that time.
I took my 4th attempt and I got a 425 and I was so bummed. And I feel like that's kind of where I lost it. I just remember being in the car after that attempt. And I think that attempt and my 5th attempt, I think both of those I went away for. I wasn't in Nashville for those. And so I was like also having to pay for a hotel stay and driving and paying for the gas to get elsewhere. I think I went to Chattanooga for one of them. I can't remember which one. It was overwhelming. And I remember I texted you about it and you were like, okay, take the day off. Like, you're fine. We're going to figure this out. We're going to keep studying. We're going to keep doing our thing. We're going to adjust. And I called another one of my friends from the program too. And I just sobbed. And she was like, Victoria, let's be realistic. You went from a 396 to a 425. Like, that's a huge jump. That was a great point increase. So whatever you're doing is working. You just have to keep doing what you're doing. And I was like, once I finally stopped crying, I realized, I was like, okay, that's a really good point, actually. So, my 5th attempt, I finally got hit the 440. I finally got it. And, I was able to sit for my boards after that. And, I don't know if I ever told you this, but my boards pass date and my NCLEX pass date are the exact same 8 years apart.
That is crazy. I love
Isn't that
that.
wild? I was like, well,
I
that's a God
love
thing.
that.
That just feels very,
I
that feels
love
very
that. Yeah,
God-like.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think the biggest thing for me for the C exams was doing something different every single time. Like when I wasn't passing, it was, and we talk a lot about this in other things, but like adjusting and adding and making changes because you can't keep doing the same thing and getting and expecting a different result, right? So if I wasn't hitting the benchmark, but I was getting closer, I'm like, cool, I can keep something that I'm doing, but I have to add something else. And so I went from like doing only Apex and then I swapped and I did only Prodigy. And I said, okay, well, I increased my scores when I was doing both of those. So why not just do both of them together? And so then I was able to do Prodigy and Apex together. And it was just like each time I was going to add something different to make a change to hopefully get me closer to that score. And it finally worked. But with that being said, I feel like there's not like some secret sauce of like exactly how to pass the C. There's not like if I tell you exactly do X, Y, and Z, you're gonna pass. Like I feel like every person's different. Some people I know were really keen on using their Anki cards. I never used the Anki cards. I never made them. That didn't work for me. Or using what's the other flashcard system? I can't
Quizlet
remember.
ones or
Quizlet.
yeah.
People use Quizlet all the time. I couldn't figure that out. It was taking too much time. I'm like, there's got to be a better system. So it's just, it really was whatever worked for you. But like, for me, it was just a matter of hitting the material every single day. And like you say this all the time, and I think I stole this from you by now, but like manipulating the material in a different way each time. How can I ask the question differently? How can I look at this question differently? How can I rephrase this answer choice? Like all of those things of just like manipulating the material in so many different systems is huge.
So, did you pass boards on your first try?
I did pass boards on my first try.
All right. So, walk me through. So, you had the C
By the grace
attempts.
of God.
You finally you had all those C attempts, right? You
Yeah.
graduated. You were upset. What did it look like for people like from your last C attempt from graduation to passing your boards? What was the time kind of frame and how did that look like? Like what did you kind of do in that time?
So we graduated the beginning of December. Um, most people, I know one kid who drove to Ohio the day after graduation, not the night of graduation, to go take his boards the next morning. That was,
Ooh,
and he passed. It was fine.
God bless. God bless.
But I was like, he was just done. He was like, I'm over this. And I was like, okay, good for you. So we graduated at the beginning of December. I took a C attempt towards the end of December. And here's where things got tricky. I was very confident that I was going to be passing the C before New Year's. That was my goal. And so I booked a trip for 2 weeks.
That's what I was getting to. I'm like,
I booked a trip. Wait, it wasn't 2 weeks. It wasn't a 2 week trip. It was a week trip. But I booked a trip over New Year's to go to London and Scotland. And I was out of the country and I just left. I took that exam. I didn't pass it, but was when I got the 425 and I had my breakdown and I'm like, what am I going to do? I have to leave the country now and I'm not going to want to study when I'm away and I'm going to come back and I have to take this exam. And in all honesty, so the other part of this that I feel like I need to clarify is that I have testing accommodations. And so for me to schedule an exam, I have to call and talk to a person every single time. I can't schedule it like online like most people can where they can just go click and change their dates very easily. For me, I had to talk to a live human every single time, and that made it very difficult. So by the time I got my attestation thing to retest, I was out of the country and I couldn't call anybody. So it very much was like, I want to say a God thing, but I just had to be so patient with it because it was going to work out however it worked out anyway. But I applied for it. I left the country. I enjoyed my trip. I think I got up early 1 or 2 mornings maybe and studied. And after that, I was like, yeah, this isn't happening. I'm not going to keep doing this. And honestly, the mental break was so needed, and I just like was able to enjoy the trip that much better. And it was so fun. So that by the time I got back, I was ready to hit the ground running. I was prepared, and I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's get it done. And my days were very long and very strenuous, but like so worth it in the end. So, I wouldn't recommend booking a trip until after you pass your C and your boards, but
We're not
I
saying you
didn't
have to do it this
know
way,
that ahead
but
of
I
time.
just want to point out like what I really like and what I really want to point out about this, because it kind of goes into my coaching program, and the program is like it's a really a mix of mindset, strategy, and like self-care. And like when I say self-care, I mean like self-compassion, taking breaks, breathing. But I also just want to just point out, like, we're not saying, yeah, book a trip, go. It works for her. It may work for some, but I want y'all to notice like the break that she took and how it like refreshed her and she was able to hit the ground running. And nothing is going to fall out of your head. Like the last 2 to 3 years are not going to just go away because you decide to take a break. And I just want to give some breath to the fact that yes, your one classmate drove hours, took boards the next day, passed, great. Some may take them a week after graduation or 2 weeks. That is not everybody's story. Some people, due to the stress of CRNA school, due to the stress of life, due to things that have happened to them in school or whatever, they just need more time. And I am full force in it's okay to take a breather and a break and chip away slowly before taking boards. Like there's no one way that y'all have to do this. And it goes back to comparison as a thief of joy. Good, great for them. That is wonderful for them that they can do that. And it's also wonderful for you if you can't do that. So I just want to normalize that, like, you might get done with school and need a minute, and that's okay. And nothing's gonna, she didn't go across the country and just everything fell out of her head and she doesn't know anything. You know what I mean? Like that's just, nothing is going to leave your head. But I just, taking a breather, taking a break, resetting, mindset, strategy, self-care, self-compassion is literally like the secret sauce, y'all. And so that being said, then we're going to talk about what she's doing now because it's super exciting. So what happened is I had in my coaching program, I had a like a ready to graduate module in there with everything from like, malpractice, choosing a job, prioritizing what's important, S Corp information, all the things, like a packet in there. I've got a video in there, and then some board study tips. And so what I wanted to do is for the people that are not in my program, I wanted to make that portion of it available because it's a lot. I get asked a lot about, how do I pick a job? What do I do? What do I do with contracts? How do I pick malpractice? Like all the things. Plus the C has been just a really big Achilles heel, I think, to everybody. And so I really was like, I want to make this available to more people. So then we'll say really quick, Victoria, you literally, this girl, so she graduated, passed boards, did all the things. And I'm not even kidding you. Like less than a week later, she was like, Amanda, I'm ready to mentor. Sign me up. Let's go. And I was like, okay. I was like, she like no break. She was like, I'm ready to go.
I was like, I'm ready.
She was like, I'm ready. She's like, I'd like to schedule a meeting with you and let's go. I said, all right, let's get it. And so essentially she is basically going to be running the Boards and Beyond program. Especially she is right in the thick of it. And I do have our NCE and C webinar that I will make available to more people shortly. So be on the lookout for that. More people can watch that if you weren't in the initial sign up. We got a lot of great feedback from it. But essentially in the Boards and Beyond, you're going to get exactly that. How to prep for the C, how to prep for boards, all of our best strategy plus little bits of mindset work. Because strategy doesn't mean anything if you don't have the mental capacity, the mindset, and the self-care to back it up. And that's really the premise of that. And that's what we are going to teach you to do. So super exciting that Victoria and I partnered up. She has been doing calls with some of my clients and mentees, and she truly is incredible. But I also want to say, like, she worked so hard on herself during school. You know what I mean? And that's not easy to do. That is a lot of what my journey looks like. I think that's why we connect so much, is because my life kind of fell apart before school, and I kind of was putting myself and my relationships and everything back together. And the work that I did with myself, on myself during school, was worth it. I mean, during it, I was like, this is ridiculous. And I quit at life and everything. But I hung in there, and you did too. And so I just want to honor you for that, of how hard you did work to. And when we say how hard you work, it's not like you're grinding away at personal development all day, but you're changing how you look at yourself. You're changing maybe a thought. You're allowing yourself to have emotions, and that's kind of what we do in my community. And so I'm just so excited that she's going to be in the Boards and Beyond program. We're going to be having monthly calls. You'll be able to meet with her. We're going to do study sessions. And then you have these little 10-minute mindset modules you'll be able to pop in: the best strategy, mindset, everything all together. So I'm like so excited for that. Yes, I'm so excited for that. So you guys look out for that as well. And quick question before we get into life after CRNA school. But why is it important for you to kind of coach and mentor? Like, what was it about your journey that makes that kind of important for you?
It's kind of like what I said earlier, where when I was shadowing CRNAs, no one talked about what their CRNA school journey was like. No one prepped me for that when I was asking questions. And I feel like it's just something that would be super beneficial for CRNAs to talk about with their students that are coming into shadow. To say like, hey, look, this is not like all fun and games. It is a hard program. It is going to beat you down. It can be really tough. And the other part of it is like life. I always say this: life does not stop when you're in CRNA school, right? Like, family members are going to pass away. People are going to go through marriage, divorce, miscarriage, having babies. Family drama is just going to come up. Health issues are going to come up. Like, there's going to be so many things that are happening in the midst of a really trialing program. So I just think that if people talked about it more, and I think your next podcast that you're doing about like what to do and prepping yourself for CRNA school is going to be so beneficial, because it's just like, there's so much of like a mindset module that could be done just to like prep yourself to get into CRNA school, to like ready yourself for that first semester. Because once you're in, you're in. Like, once you're there, you're going to go full steam ahead. And I just think that more people need to talk about it. And so if I can lend a little bit of support to other students that were in my same boat, not everyone's story is the same, which is across the board going to be just how it is. No one's story is exactly the same, but we're going to have little pieces that are similar, or, life experiences that kind of relate to one another, that we can at least support each other through. And I think that was the biggest part, was just like having somebody in your corner that's been through the program, that knows how difficult this is, but knows that like there's life and there is joy and there's happiness on the other side of it, to encourage you through that and just like be there with you. I just think that that's invaluable, basically. So I hope to provide that to other students as they walk this great journey into becoming a CRNA.
I love that. So let's recap really quick. So y'all, she got a rejection. She got a new job. Okay. Started off brand new with new people, new scaries, new everything. She struggled in CRNA school. Life happened to her. She got like smacked in the face with life and school. She did not pass the C on her first or second attempt. So all those things happened being said. She's now graduated. She has passed board. She is a CRNA. Tell me, I'm so proud of you. So after all of that, what is life like after school right now? I know you're still freshly in it, but what's it like?
Freshly in it. So I started my job this last week. It has been 6 months since I've been in the OR, which is wild to think about and to say, but I chose to, I'm going to clarify that. I chose this path, but I chose to pick up my life from Nashville and move to South Carolina for a job. And it wasn't anything in particular. I won't like it. It wasn't, the money was better, or the hospital system was better or anything like that. I just needed a change from Nashville and I wanted something different. And so I picked up my life and did that. That process was grueling. I think that credentialing anywhere you go is a struggle of a process, but if you are looking to move out of state, I highly recommend you look into the state requirements for nursing license, APRN license, all of those fun things, because that is really what tripped me up and kind of delayed my process a little bit. Was I had to move to the state of South Carolina before they would give me a nursing license. So just look into those things if you're planning on moving out of state after graduation. So that process was just a little bit longer. I was delayed on moving into my apartment, but the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I got to move into my apartment 2 weeks before I started my job. And so we are getting settled in and things are going swimmingly. It, it's funny because everybody has said, oh, you'll pick it back up in no time. I was terrified. I'm like, I've been out for 6 months. I'm not going to remember anything. Like, I'm not going to be able to DL anybody. I'm going to miss all of my intubations. Like, does my hospital even do A lines? Like, what do I need to do? What do I need to know? And I have a book. I was reading this book the weekend before I started. I'm like, I'm trying to refresh my brain on things. And let me just tell you, you get in there and it's like muscle memory. It's the weirdest thing. And I can't explain. I can't explain
I say that
it
all the time. I just want to say I say that all the time. So
you
now you've heard it right from the horse's
you
mouth.
told me that. But literally, I got in there and it was like, I think the only thing I really fumbled on was like putting monitors on, and I like went to go grab drugs and I realized that like none of the monitors were on, and I was like, that would be a helpful thing to have though.
I love it.
Like,
Always something.
luckily my team was so nice. They were like, okay, while you grab drugs, why don't you hand me some of those monitors and I'll get those on for you? And I was like, oh, thanks so much. They were so nice about it. But it's just like everything else, like you just get in the groove of it, and it's just like it really is muscle memory. It's just it's there and it doesn't leave you ever, and you're gonna be just fine if you start in 3 months or 6 months or a year. It's gonna be fine. So
Absolutely.
we're getting into it and we're learning all the new things. And if you've been to I feel like most CRNA programs are like this, where they rotate through so many different clinical sites that like you're kind of just used to it. So for me, it just, at least in this first week or two, I feel like it just feels like I'm at a new clinical site because I'm getting to know the surgeons and the anesthesiologists and like preferences between people and who likes to do what and who will let me do my own spinals and like those kinds of things. And so I just feel like right now it's a clinical site. I don't think it's going to feel real that I'm on my own until one, I get the first paycheck, and two, I'm really off of orientation, because this place has been so nice and they gave me like 3 weeks of orientation because they know I've been out for a while. So that's amazing. But it feels good. It feels nice to like not come home and have to make a care plan.
Yeah, see, there's hope, y'all. There's hope. It ends.
There's hope and joy on the other side, I promise.
Yeah. And I just want to say too, because you guys are going to be so sick of me, but I just want to say this again too, is that remember, there's not like a holy grail that is ever going to rid you of your humanity. What I mean by that is she graduated, then all the things that come with boards and all that kind of stress. And then you pass boards. And then it's like, oh my God, I have the first job. And can I do this? And you guys remember, some of you now in clinical, what if I can't intubate tomorrow? What if the surgeon doesn't like me? What if I get that? And she's having all those thoughts and all of those before her job with the CRNA title, right? With the doctor, and the DNP and all those things. So I just want to say once again, y'all, is no accomplishment is going to take away of you being a human, and that's okay. But what we can do is we can lean into our humanity. We can get support. We can learn how our brain works, and we can learn to be more compassionate and really come out thriving and be okay no matter what circumstance is thrown at us. And that's really what I'm all about, is like, okay, all these circumstances are going to happen. First job, getting yelled at, clinical sites, failing a test. How are we going to think and feel about those? What are we going to do about it? How are we also going to let ourselves be human? And I think that's a lot of it, a lot of us type A perfectionists, we forget about that. But I just want you to notice that like she didn't graduate and all of a sudden was like, oh, life is perfect. What? Like she's like,
Nope.
guys, like literally, I'm telling you, she was not living in her apartment. She was like a little nomad with like stuff everywhere, like not fun, like literally not fun at all. You know what I mean? So I just want to just say that things are going to happen. And I love that she can laugh at them right now. And she
Mhm.
hadn't touched a patient for 6 months, but she's fine. She like texted me. I should probably like find your text. You're like, oh, I did
I
fine.
know. I was thinking about
It was
that.
so fun. I know. I was like, it is. And it's still going to be a learning curve. And even me, because I'm choosing to do a lot of 1099 work, I have to still figure out, what is this doctor like? What does this person want? How is that? You know what I mean? It's like the skills that you are building as an RN, and no matter which unit you are, if you're not even in the ICU yet, as a SRNA or RRNA, those skills you are building, those leadership
Mhm.
skills, the everyday struggle of sometimes showing up, having the hard conversations, taking the feedback, all of that, I promise you, is building you up for something so incredible and so major. And once you get to that milestone, there's going to be another one, right? So it really is about the journey and what we do in the in between, how we treat ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, and how we really manage ourselves when things are hard. And I just think you've done, an amazing job doing that.
Thank you.
One quick thing too is just because I was thinking when you were talking about things, what did you do for finances during school? Like what was kind of your plan? Where were you at? How was that?
So fun. This is the best part of this whole podcast.
I was
I
broke.
took
I was
out I
broke
took
in
out
school. I
loans.
tell you.
I was broke. I took out loans. I took out the maximum amount of loans, so I have the max amount of loans for my program, which I start paying back I think next month. And yeah, it wasn't fun. That part was not enjoyable. I will say though, the reason I did it, and we did um financial planning with our financial aid department before we started school. The average to pay off loans for a CRNA is 10 years, or that's what they space your loans out over 10 years is what they do with your minimum payments. The program told me that most people pay them off in 5. Majority of people pay them off in 5. So my goal was like, I can do that 3 to 5 years. That's totally doable. I'll do that. And so that's still my plan. That's my intention. And I think every month will look a little different depending on what happens with life. I think, you get a flat tire or your car breaks down or you have a medical emergency. Like all of these things happen. And so like you're going to be just fine making a minimum monthly payment. And if you can pay a little bit more, then great. And if you can't, then great. Like I just think that the return on investment for being a CRNA is going to be worth it in the long run. And me paying off my loans is not going to be the end of the world. So yeah, I think that my situation is just seems pretty standard is what most of the people in my program did, I think too. There were a handful of people that I will say were married and had like another income. And so they took out just loans for the program and not living expenses. And I took out the max amount of loans for school and living expenses. So I did both, which made mine a little bit higher. But I don't know. Unfortunately, I think that's part of it for CRNA school. Just knowing how expensive it is, which is unfortunate, but it'll be
I'm
okay.
planning
You'll
for
be
it.
fine.
You will be. You really will. I'm
Yeah.
still paying my loans, guys. I took a break. I think I've said this before. I had my loans and then I paid them for a little bit. And then I decided to get married and buy a nice car, buy a house, and so I kind of put them on hold for a little bit and I'm paying my loans and it's okay. So I just want to let you guys know you're also not alone
Yeah.
in that. I know it's a big worry. And of course you're allowed to worry about that, of course. And it is something you want to think about and plan for if you can. But you will be, it'll work out and you will be okay. I can definitely promise you that. So
I will also say
so
there are like hospital systems too that will, if you like sign on for 10 years or something and you work for them for 10 years and you're making minimum monthly payments, they'll pay the remainder of your loan. So like if that's something that's really important to you, you can always look into working for a hospital system that does that, because I know there are a lot of options there as well.
and even like picking up like a Saturday shift a month or an extra shift a month or a call shift could be like your loan payment too. You know what I mean? So there's definitely
Yep,
ways you can get creative doing those things, and kind of the ability to flex your
totally.
income up and down is like really nice as well. So, well, I have
Yeah.
one last question for you, Victoria. As of right now, being a brand new CRNA and living your best life and all the things, was it worth it? Was all the hard stuff, was everything worth it?
Yes, it was worth it. Would I do it again? No. Like if I had to repeat this, if someone was like, "Hey, your diploma is now invalid," I'd be like, "Nope." I have to use it in some other way then. I just am I glad that I did it? Yes. Am I really excited for this career? Absolutely. I'm so excited to jump in and to work at this new hospital and this new setting and see these new patients, to critically think on my own. Um, I'm really excited for what I did, even despite it being one of the hardest things of my life. But I think for my age as well, like I just turned 30 in January. I think that I've like set up my life ahead of me and my career, for success, which is great. And someone someone the other day told me that I had expensive taste or something. I forget how they worded it, but they said you have expensive taste. And I said, yeah, but I also like developed my career on my own. Like I don't expect anyone to do anything for me. Like I did this for myself. Like these are the things that I like and this is the way that I want to live. And I'm very content with this path that I chose. And I'm excited to see what the future brings with my anesthesia career.
Me too. I'm so excited. Well, any
So
last
excited.
minute, like any last minute advice or any last minute things you want to tell the audience today?
Um, I just think that if you are in the thick of it, whether you are applying for school or you're in school, um, I do want to encourage people that like this is such a rewarding field to be in, to be on the other side of that, especially if you've been working in an ICU. I remember my days of ICU days, especially during the middle of COVID, just seeing so much negativity and despair and sadness. And I think that this is such a different world to be in anesthesia, to see patients go through surgery that, I mean, I last week I did a couple spine cases and these people are in so much pain, and knowing that they're going to wake up on the other side hopefully feeling so much better. I think it's just such a different, type of nursing that isn't talked about a lot, and just the joy that comes from it. So I just want to encourage you that if you are in the thick of it, in the ICU, long days, it is not the end. There's joy on the other side of CRNA school, and there's a lot to come from this. So keep on keeping on.
Yeah. I love that. And I think too, you just made me think about in my head is like, there's just nothing better when I'm like, I don't know, doing a bunch of hand cases for the day or GI, and you just see all your patients get dressed and like walk out and go home, like in that same day, and
Yes.
knowing, like I didn't think about that till you said that. I said, it is, you're right. It's totally different kind of nursing, because they literally, for the most part, they go home, or even just watching them get admitted up to the floor. If they're staying overnight, they're usually, thank you so much and have a good day. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You're right. I never thought about it like that. Yeah. And that alone it's a great feeling. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
really
it's
good
good.
thing. Well, Victoria, thank you. I just want to say thank you for literally just trusting me and joining my program. And
Mhm.
just, I mean, Victoria, I mean, you showed up to like the calls and the advice and the support you gave. Because guys, we have such a good community in my coaching program. I mean, it is like
Mhm.
just amazing individuals. Everyone's giving each other advice. I connect people from different programs. We have people who are just starting, who are in the middle, who are in the end, and everybody just shares and gives so much in that community there. And I just love it. And you were such a big part of it. And, she scheduled her calls with me. She showed up to her calls with me. Sometimes she was in the pit of despair and was just sitting in her bed, just like but she
What am I
kept
doing?
going. I know, you're like, Amanda. I'm like, okay, we got this. But she never gave up. She persisted. And I think that is, you're not going to become a CRNA if you're not persistent. And if you're just not willing, I mean, like I say all the time, you just got to be willing to show up, even when it just feels so terrible, and having
Yeah.
hope on what's on the other side. So I just want to I appreciate you. You're amazing. Welcome to being a CRNA. And I'm just excited to watch your career blossom. And y'all want to get in this boards and beyond stuff with us, get coached and mentored by Victoria. She's amazing. And I will have all the details up for you, and we'd love to have you join us so that you can get through the C and get through the NCE with
Mhm.
like peace of mind and not being
Yeah.
so beaten down is really, I think, the goal that we have for each of you. So, all right. Well, thanks
Mhm.
y'all for listening. Thank you for your time, Victoria. I appreciate it. Enjoy that South Carolina sunshine, and I will see y'all on the next episode.